Hey everybody, welcome back to our podcast Quarantine. This is Sasha and this is Mayo. Last video we talked about my heartbreak. In this video, we're going to talk about his heartbreak.
Okay, so this is take 2 for me, and I promised Darshan, because last time I rambled on for over 20 minutes.
20 minutes. So I told him, bro, you got to do it again.
I promised him I won't make him eat an ice cream again. So this time I wrote down my thoughts. So I'm just going to read off my ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is still pretty hard for me to talk about. The issues are complex and they come with a lot of history and emotions. And thus, I don't want to reduce all of this to a simple black or white story.
Yeah.
It's not that. So, as I summarize, it's just something to keep in mind. As always, I want to set the precedent by saying that the people we are going to talk about, the people I'm talking about here, the person, was someone I really cherished and cared about and had a lot of love for in my life.
Yeah.
And they're definitely a good human. Humans are just very complex. So, and these are just my emotions and my side of the story. I'm not going into depth with anything particular. The purpose of the story is to try and share what emotions we went through during and after a breakup and how we healed. So here we go. What was the relationship? I'm just going to ask my own questions. Okay. It's an easy episode for you.
Yeah.
The relationship started off as a friendship that grew quickly and naturally. It became a very deep bond where there was a lot of love, understanding, and respect. We got along really well, but dating each other was never a convenient choice for us, as the situation was very complicated with many players and many different ideologies going on, and we never really were in that mindset of dating each other to start with. I won't go into details. Let's just say we fell in love at different times with different triggers, and it was a really strong emotional bond. And we both tried to ignore it and distract from it, but we just couldn't. We kept coming back to it. I think at that point we were like, all right, let's give this a shot and see what happens. It was a very intense, unique experience for me. Our relationship started to change once we started dating. That was really hard for me to accept. At some point, I think fear entered the relationship. And when transparency, vulnerability, communication, honesty, and love should have been at its strongest, like it was in our friendship, I think we started struggling in those aspects. Old relationship habits and maturity issues kind of popped up. There were old insecurities and new insecurities were being formed. And we just had some issues around things like intimacy, ideology surrounding consent. And consent is super important to me. And I personally find it very attractive. Space, like methods of communication, prioritization, just to name a few. To be fair to us, there was a lot of flux in the relationship because we tried out many different ideas, many different ways of living, and time was a big stressor. My partner at the time was going to leave to travel the world, and I wanted to maximize my time with her before she went away. And it's put a lot of pressure on the relationship too. Pressure to be happy, pressure to solve problems right away. We had a new set of expectations that we didn't have in our friendship, so that took time to adjust. We just didn't have time. We worked through a lot of these issues and a lot of these problems, and we definitely held space for each other when we could. And we really grew close to each other. And that closeness made the happy moments really happy, but it made the sad moments also really, really sad, like really low. I need to also mention how there were a lot of times when we were happy in the relationship. It was just these issues that I talked about before were frequent enough that we did take notice. We have so many fond memories of like doing things together, moments of comfort, moments of laughter, moments of connectedness. And that's a big thing for me, feeling super connected to someone. And I think we really opened up to each other, and this, I think, is the most vulnerable that we both have been. But with that, there also came the fear of pain. When you're that open and that vulnerable with someone, it's really easy for that person to hurt you as well. So fast forward to the end. For various reasons, I suggested maybe we go our separate ways. Once again, I'm not going into details with a lot of these things. We had a breakthrough when we started talking, and we decided to maybe give it another shot and work through things. I was supposed to meet my partner eventually on her world trip. And I think closer to her leaving, there was a realization that it might be best for us to go our own ways. It's just, yeah. It was going to be hard to be alone or be separate for that time period, especially when she's going through a whole set of new experiences, and I am here with my daily routine. Well, once again, this is something we always say: love is not enough for a relationship, and we'll talk about this in another episode. So, because I'm asking my own questions, what hurt? So this is about my worst breakup, not about my relationship, but some of the pain of the breakup and transition is linked to the things from the relationship. And we don't have time to go through all the details, and I don't want to go into that level of depth either. The breakup was sad, but we were there for each other. The love is still strong, we appreciated each other, we celebrated our relationship, and I think we left on a really good note. I later found out that maybe we weren't on the same page when we left, but that's another long story for another time. What hurt the most, I think, was a transition. Yes, we were not together. We were single. There were no expectations from a relationship. But one thing we did do was promise to stay friends. And we went through a transition period where I thought we were still, we both were still in love. And we still referred to each other as our partner. And we still felt connected and together. I think as she got used to the environment, the idea of a new start became more and more appealing and more real. And I understand the excitement of the new start and exploring new connections, new intimacy, and it's kind of romantic, right? You're in a distant land. I am keeping an eye on the time, so there were many things that happened during the transition, and I'm not going to go into the complexity of the situation. I'm just going to describe a few of my emotions. Like for you, you were hurt by the amount of time it took for the person to move on.
Yeah.
I think it was the same for me. We had a gray zone period. As I described before, we were broken up, but whatever. A few days after the gray zone, she had already started exploring her intimacy. I didn't know any of this, actually. It wasn't the fact that she had moved forward that hurt. I think it was the expectation that we would communicate with each other when we were moving forward. And the failure of meeting that expectation, that's what hurt. We thought we would tackle the transition as friends, together as a team. And I always maintained that we should communicate when things changed. What hurt the most was pain from those broken expectations of our friendship. The friendship I felt wasn't respected. I felt misled with intention over her moving forward. And I think it really broke down trust for me. We had trust issues in the past that we worked through. So emotions that I felt, it made me feel used, made me feel discarded, made me feel lied to, made me doubt myself. For context, I spoke with this person daily, and I made it very clear what I needed to move forward, and I made sure I respected what she needed to move forward. I was under the idea that we would do this as a unit. Just for context, I was still here, living my life, and still taking care of us stuff. Yeah. Cleaning, there was a bunch of stuff that was left behind, so packaging that, buying stuff for our trip, making cards, trying to make sure she didn't feel lonely. And to be clear, I chose to do all those things, and she's not responsible for any of that. And technically, we had broken up, and I understand why certain things were done, not wanting to deal with my emotions, and fear could have caused a lack of transparency. I understand the anxiety. I understand needing time and space to move forward and having new experiences to figure yourself out. I also understand that this person may not have had the capacity at that moment to communicate. I think I'm really good at reading people and understanding people. And at some points, I think my biggest thing was my gut was telling me something seemed off. But I fought that feeling because I had a lot of faith in this person. And yeah, so 2 weeks from when I I guess, broke up, she was communicating how she was feeling stuck. And so I knew I had to start giving her space. And then 2 weeks from our, actually a few days from our gray zone, the movement had started. 2 weeks from the gray zone, there's a rapid breakdown of communication. Yeah. And I'm not going to get into why and whatnot. But it made me feel discarded. It made me feel like my emotional support was no longer needed, because now there was a new individual in her life, a new partner in her life, and it felt like our friendship was just discarded. Except for when I was needed to like bring something or do something. This is not fair to her at all. These are a lot of my insecurities, and emotions are way more complex than what I just described. But I think the lying by omission is what really killed me. So how did I heal? 11 minutes. How did I heal? In the space, I think I tried to heal. I think I always have a tendency to put others first. And it's just hard for me to move forward because I still had hope. I didn't want to make the first move. There was no obligation for her to tell me, but there was an expectation. And I had to see her again. I think what really hurt and what I was trying to get over were expectations were set. Like expectations of not dating other people, expectations of not experiencing new intimacy. And they were broken and not communicated that they were broken. And I think that really left scars. And during this time, I've never experienced anxiety. I've never experienced this severity of anxiety, slip into like depressive episodes and stuff. So that was also part of my healing. I had to come out of that. Thank you to all my friends, inclusive of you, for being there for me. And to her for trying as well. Yeah. Yep. And so I decided I was going to write her a letter. And I was going to give her the letter. And then I was just going to walk away. Because I felt that she was happy. And I didn't want to interfere with her happiness. But I couldn't do it because it felt wrong. Because I felt like I was abandoning her. And so she reached out about an errand. And I told her, hey, like, do you want to stay here for longer? And she realized the state I was in. And then she decided that she wanted to fix this. And so she was more transparent with me. And she found her voice again. And now she was happy. So she had the capacity to be compassionate. And she tried to really mend and help me with the healing. There was honesty that was slowly starting to rebuild, and truth. I don't think our friendship will ever be the same from what it was. But it's nice to know that we're building from here and we're slowly starting to heal and mend. There's a lot I didn't get to talk about, and this is a one-sided story. And I just want to say, like, I understand this other person's emotions, and I empathize with it. I understand how hard it can be. I understand sometimes we aren't who we think we are. I also understand that growth sometimes takes time. I understand that, and what we're currently working on is not pigeonholing each other to past behavior. Because people regress. They learn, they change, they regress. They learn, they change, they regress. It's how you move forward. And yeah, let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah, man. One thing I want to say is, like, after this, like, when this breakup happened, I was there, man. I saw you, like, going through this whole ordeal in terms of, like, your mental health still, like, how it got impacted by this whole thing, right? I never seen you sad, man. Not like this, right?
I think like the complexity of the story too. Like, there's a lot, and it was. Yeah.
Like, I think this is my first time, like, where I saw you going through anxiety as well, right?
I've never experienced anxiety before.
Yeah. So I was there, like, remember that time we're like driving the car and you're like, a lot of anxiety. Yeah. Wow.
So we're healing, which is the important part.
100%.
Moving forward. Yeah, and I'm really happy that she's found someone as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, no. At the end of the day, we still love them, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, we still love them.
There's some things that I learned a lot from this experience too, like putting your happiness first.
Yeah.
And being compassionate, like, yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah. I don't want to keep talking.
For sure.
Okay,
so, well, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.